That is completely
When was the last case he represented?
I'm not here to do your research for you.
But no, you said it. I'm telling you it didn't happen.
Benjamin Crump has a long-standing career of supporting people of all races and ethnicities when it comes to the violation of their civil rights, as well as personal injuries. So please let me answer your question.
Go ahead.
The reason why you get a civil rights attorney is because, number one, Benjamin Crump has extensive experience when it comes to wrongful death suits. Number two, in this situation, it is possible that there may be an element that Nolan Wells' civil rights were violated and that something may have happened to him because of his color, which is why you get a civil rights attorney. And so that is the answer to your question.
It's about
As
color.
a former prosecutor, you let the police and the sheriff's office deal with the notion of criminality because that is one thing that Benjamin Crump can't do anything about.
Well, let's say this. Brother, can I jump in here?
You go get someone like Benjamin Crump.
Why wouldn't the kids get the right?
The Lord our God says his people are yet in captivity. So who needs to be saved?
Like, for instance, people were saying, why did these kids lawyer up? First of all, many of them didn't even have a lawyer. They went and talked to investigators and did a lie detector test equivalent with no lawyers. Okay, so, but anyway, wouldn't you think it would be weird if these kids went out and got a civil rights attorney?
Hello?
You haven't seen the sun.
Who needs to be delivered? Officer Tatum.
So y'all getting ready to leave?
Why would they have a civil rights attorney? They're not being accused of anything.
They are being accused. They are being accused. They are accused of child abduction.
We're on our way to our homes now.
Show me where Al Sharpton has accused them of something.
All right, they said, this is what they said.
Suspicion.
Show me what they said. No. They said, they put these boys' pictures out on the internet and said, he went out and they framed it as he went out just with them. And something happened, and we know something happened, and why they hiding phones and doing all this? He's accusing them before any evidence is presented.
That's not an accusation. It is an accusation.
But
it's a statement of suspicion. That is not an accusation.
Why?
Charles, let me chime in here. A statement of suspicion, some people would say, is an accusation. I understand from the legal, literal sense what you're saying. But talking amongst ourselves right now, when you say a statement of suspicion is not an accusation, that's not how people interpret a statement of suspicion. When you make a statement of suspicion, you're making an accusation. I mean, can we at least concede that?
Charles, what I was saying in response to that, Stephen A., is to whatever extent there may have been statements of suspicion that were interpreted in that manner given early on, I think the record has been clear leading up to and during Nolan Wells' funeral that A, we don't know what happened, B, we won't rule anything out, and C, with respect to ruling anything out or not ruling anything out, we are not saying that this absolutely happened, but we are not saying that we are rescued until we get into it.
Can I say Charles by?
Let me come at you with this. What's wrong? There's a kid now. Granted, you did your homework. You went out there and you actually talked to several of his friends. Props to you for that. But the bottom line is, this kid Nolan Wells is dead, and he was the only one that was dead. What's wrong with, again, in the state of Mississippi, not just with white boys, there were some dudes there as well, but he had other people there. He was the one that did not come home alive. Again, without an official accusation, what's wrong with having your suspicions raised and saying, listen, we need some damn answers. Something ain't right. He was a healthy young 18-year-old, and he didn't come home alive. How'd that happen? What's wrong with
Now, if they had context and all the information, and then they labeled that, I would have no problem with it. But let me tell you this right now, Stephen A. Smith and Charles, I'm telling you right now, if a white boy was on an island with his black friends, all black, and some white folks put on a camera that something must be suspicious because the one white boy is with all these black dudes, and something may have happened. We know that people covering it up and everything because these kids black. Man, we'd be pissed off on that. Ain't no way in the world I'd accept somebody saying you gonna blame these black boys for doing something to these kids just because they black. That's insane. And that's why
they should not interrogate every one of those black
three black boys. We would have seen a very different
evidence.
We have
give it a case. History. No history. You say history.
It wouldn't be insane if they did.
We would have seen please let me finish the statement. We would have seen a very different. Give me an example of the Central Park. The exonerated five.
Well, first of all, if 5 of them didn't go to prison, it was Central Park 5. 6 of them. Only 4 of them went to prison.
It was actually 6 of them, and 5 went to prison. And I'm not. And let me tell you how they went to prison. I'm not going to split it with you. You won't give the context.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
You asked for an example. I'm not going to flip it with you and say, well, they're all the exonerated 5. And only 4 with you. I'm not going to do that. The exonerated 5. You wanted an example. I gave you an example.
That's not an equivalent example.
And there are other examples throughout history, starting with Emmett Till.
Are you comparing this to Emmett Till?
You asked me.
No. Are you saying that you
asked me for an example? Where it's reversed.
I'm going to stop by.
I'm going to let you finish.
I'm telling you, I'm giving you examples. What I'm telling you is that if the situation were reversed, we would have seen a very different investigation from law enforcement from the actual outset. From the outset. We have to people when it comes, as a former prosecutor, because here's the thing, you're a former police officer, and that's fine. But when it comes to after arrests are made and how prosecutions are going, that's my space. That's my lane. Those are people my lane. And what I can tell you is, we do not typically enjoy the benefit of the doubt when it comes to probable cause. That's not true. I'm telling you as a former prosecutor, I'm not going to tell you when
I arrest people and I deal with prosecutors.
I'm not going to tell you what
I have to interview with the prosecutors every time there's an arrest. And I have to go to trial.
Well, he's not saying that you don't know. Hold on. He's not saying that you don't know, Officer Tatum. What he's saying is from his perspective as a prosecutor, this is what he's bringing up. Now, I granted, I don't blame Officer Tatum. I don't blame Officer Tatum for bringing up, actually incredulous when he says, you can say Emmett Till, that's 1955. It was Al Sharpton brought up Medgar Evers at the funeral, that's 1963. So if Officer Tatum's going to look at it and say, that's what you're bringing up, I get where he's coming from in terms of the distance between then and now. But I also get where you're coming from, Charles Coleman Jr., when you highlight, listen, from an historical perspective, we're talking about, we've seen things like this before, and those are just names that we know. There's a plethora of names that we may not have known that have transpired throughout history that have suffered some of these maladies, and we get that part too. Go ahead, Officer Tatum, the floor is yours.
But what I'm saying is that you cannot project that. It's unfair to project that. You can have it in your subconscious that there has been things that have been done wrong, but you got to treat these things fairly. You cannot go out and project that somehow the sheriff is a racist and he's not going to do right by these boys. That's not right. Let the investigation ensue, and then if you see impropriety in the investigation, then you can project that. But listen, they interviewed you just said, they interviewed 60 people. They interviewed all these boys the day of. Like, what did they do wrong? They did an autopsy.
Officer Tatum, respectfully, what about those who would say the same or would ask the same question about you? Are you being fair? Because just like you have people out there that are elevating their level of suspicion and jumping to some sort of conclusion attached to guilt as it pertains to the death of Nolan Wells, you're coming across as somebody who's assuming these individuals that were in attendance with him were innocent because of your conversations with them, as opposed to not getting the full context the way Charles Coleman Jr. just highlighted.
No, I accept people saying that, but let me tell you that I saw proof. I'm not just taking somebody's account for it. And I'm not saying that nobody didn't kill Nolan. I'm telling you the people that they put out on the internet and said these white boys were the only ones with him, and they're getting death threats. While I was out there, somebody sent a suspicious package to one of the boys' houses. They showing up at these white boys were the only ones with him, and they're getting death threats. While I was out there, somebody sent a suspicious package to one of the boys' houses. They showing up at these boys' houses, saying that they killed them. Go look on the internet and look at any video. They got the boys' pictures up there saying they had something to do with this. They're claiming they deleting text messages. All of this stuff is incredibly ridiculous. When I went out and I said, show me the proof then. Not just what you say, show me the proof. And these kids are showing proof, the lawyers are showing proof that they had nothing to do with this. They have a Life 360 just like Nolan did. Their Life 360 showed that they were not on the island, or at least, you know, the young man that I interviewed, he wasn't even on the island. I saw his Life 360. I mean, these kids, they shouldn't have done these boys like this. They should let the investigation go and then make their accusation.
Everything back there? Yeah.